Hello, YouTube and internet friends. My name's Kayla Williams. You're on my YouTube channel, Kayla Williams Music. And, okay, a couple things. If you're here, 1, I've been on YouTube for 10 years. Just thought about that today. That's crazy. 2, I'm a musician. That may or may not be obvious. 3, obsessed with the Beach Boys. The level of obsession is beyond, and has been since I was 15. And actually, we're in my childhood bedroom right now. I don't know if you can see it. It's a faint chalkboard that says the Beach Boys. It had a little wave and a surfboard. I was like totally ripping that off of a biography that I watched till the tape blew. Needless to say, I recently posted a Beach Boys cover and it was Surf's Up. Love the song. Like, took me so long to do this one. Another little flash to the computer. So this is the track that I was working with. And this is what I've got. All the pink stuff is vocals. The rest is instrumentation. I work with Reason right now. Pro Tools as well, but currently Reason. Anyway, I had a comment on that video that said, would love, you said it was complex, but also simple, like would love to know more of your thoughts and break it down. I thought that was a great idea. So here we are. And actually it's going to be a new series, I suppose. And I'm calling it Kayla Williams Uncovered. Although I might do the same thing for my originals and break them down as well. But this is a cute little title. I'm going to post some on YouTube, but I'm going to post a lot more on Patreon. I have a Patreon. So if you follow me over there, you can hear way more about the behind the scenes stuff on my Patreon. But I figured I'd share, because why not? This is super fun for me. Woo! And let's dive right in. So we've got a really simple arrangement in the verses. We've got keys, which I've got a bunch tracked up, like layered up. We've got a little bit of trumpet, which I layered up with some trombone sounds. We've got that little guitar, bum 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 bum, right? That little bell goes on there, and then we've got these horns. This kind of brass section. This brass section, I didn't share in the original video me playing it, because it actually took me a really long time to kind of hear these lines, and figure them out. I couldn't tell you 100% of these 4 that I figured out and recorded if they were accurate completely in terms of their arrangement, or did I blend a couple and that's where my ear went. But yeah, that one took a while to hear. I based this off of multiple versions. There was Brian Wilson's playing it solo. There was another one that someone had it blended, so the audio of the voices were really in 2 different monitors. There was an instrumental version of it made from the 2004 album, so tons of versions I was kind of going through. And then thank you to everyone on the Smiley Smile message board that helped me decipher the lyric stuff, because that was just a mystery, frankly, some of it to me. In the beginning part of the song, these keys, the chord progression, we've got a G. I'm going to show on my phone my hands. We've got a G minor 7 over D, and then it switches to a D minor 7 over G. Interesting. Kind of backward stuff. And then eventually into B flat, G minor 7, F over C, C, D over C, G over D, A over G, which was not written correct on this chord chart. I can take the chord chart. They're always wrong. Every chord chart I've ever looked. Whoops, and then D over A at the end there. So, so that's basically the chord progression in the verse 1, 2. The weird thing that starts happening in second verse is it goes D over E minor 7, sort of a G minor 7 over F to, whoops, D over F sharp, which is interesting. That's a cool little part. And then we get into these G sharp major 6. And what's happening here is it gets a lot more simple. So before we had some like rhythmically in the first part, we've still got these quarter notes going on that we can hear always. That's really fast. The quarter notes, the bass is always doing this 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 3. So we got this kind of syncopated rhythm. Then we get into this next section. I don't know what we call this. Section 2, we'll call it. Dove nested towers. Dove nested towers. Okay, we get there. The bass is just holding, down here, just holding that G sharp in that chord. And then it says on the chord chart it's C minor over B flat. It's E flat, an inversion of E flat over B flat. For anyone who's not into music, this is going to be moderately confusing or boring. And then, again, we get into, this is the kind of like stuff that's like fairly simple. D minor 7, G minor 7, C, F. That whole thing. Nothing too crazy there. And I say the next part that comes up that gets, that was a little different than what's written here is our like surfs up. Board, tidal wave, blah, blah, da, da, da. I heard the word. So that is not, I think it was written here as, I heard the word, as an F sharp over C. I heard the word. No, internet. Basically, I'm hearing it as the A flat major over C sharp. Heard the word, wonderful thing, which is again that E flat basically over the C chord. A children's song. Back to like an F major, or sorry, F minor 7. Song. Back to that E flat over C song, and then it does this B flat sort of that little arrangement there, almost like a sus2. Song. Back to that C or E flat over C. Anyway, so that's sort of the happening in terms of the chord progression. I don't know if you wanted to see that or how it was played. So at the end, that chord, it's doing the same thing. So it's doing this repeating of that F. They're calling it F minor, but I would call it A flat over E, and then to an E flat. The B flat that sort of has a quick little movement back to the E flat. The bass, as I hear it, let me play the bass line. F, C, F, F, C, F, B flat, F, E flat, F, B flat, B, C, C, G, chromatic descent down. Now, I don't actually hear the chromatic doing an entire chromatic run. I hear it go to G and then it just skips into F. So that's how I hear the bass line, as far as I could tell. It was, originally I thought it was a total chromatic, meaning like moving by the smallest spaces, the half steps in music down, but I don't think that's what's happening. I think it skips there. So the vocals, I have a million in this arrangement. Now the harmonies, there's not a lot of harmony at the beginning. There's a little bit. There's a lot of harmony at the end of the song. At the end it was a little harder to decipher. I really had to listen to multiple versions to get what was going on. So handsome man in the tall. We've got at the beginning the main vocal. That was a word I didn't know. Bygone. I thought it was my God. We've got that. We've got my dog making noise. The music hall. So I heard multiple voices there. Some high stuff. Okay, so let's jump to the end. Let's break down the wall of harmony that we hear first. And so we come out of this. That's the main line that it ends with, that main vocal. That's what starts it. That's your main vocal. Harmony 2. Stays on the same note. So parallel, but also sort of stationary. Stationary. Drops down. So just those. Some stay stationary, some are moving. bass line. You can hear here how I manipulated the bass vocal a little bit. Because I don't have a bass voice. I don't have a man voice. So all I can do is child, child, father of the man. We got that. Child, father of the man. Child, oh, father of the man. That's your bass line. You got these kind of like mains going on. You got these child, child, father of the man. Oh, child, 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 father of the man. Oh, child. That one took a little while to hear, to be honest. Those are the vocals at the end that I can hear. So I kind of layered up a ton of the main. Those like big vocals. And then we have sort of like our sung almost melody line that I think it's Al singing. And then I believe it's Mike doing the bass stuff. And then again, a kind of combination of everything though. Lots of stuff at the end. At the end, musically, I'm only hearing the piano and then your bass going. Okay, so pretty simple arrangement at the end. And this is what I mean about like, some things are simple, but yet the harmonies are so full, so complex. Even at the beginning, it's like, it's simple, but we've got like these different layers that come in. And I didn't really talk about the percussion. The percussion's pretty simple too. Just hear like a tambourine or something is going. Then in the middle, there is no percussion. Again, that's a simple thing. It's a very simple arrangement. And at the end, not a lot of percussion either. I hear these little shakers come in and out. You know, I may have even missed a couple things. It's a super crazy song in terms of like how many layers there are. There's also strings in the middle. The strings in the middle, only that I can hear, kind of just pop up in this little midsection. They pop in and they fade out. I know in one arrangement, in the more new 2004 or something arrangement, there's a lot of strings going on. I just chose not to do that because I was kind of sticking more to the older version. I also added in these harmonies that layered over the strings that swell up with that. So in the switching over from the verse into that section 2, we've got that little swell strings vocals comes in and pops out. But like in terms of a chord progression, I mean, if you're a musician and you're listening to some of those chords, they're not that hard. The rhythms are not that hard. The parts in general are not super hard, you know. The harmonies are a little thick, a little challenging to hear, to decipher. If you don't have the ear for it, it can be hard. Even the bass line, I actually had to scour, I mean, lots of versions and just trying to listen to that bass line over and over in different headphones and like in different arrangements. It just is, you know, there was like 3 different times I was like, oh, there's another note I kind of missed in there. I definitely didn't hear that bass line the way it was originally, even though I've listened to the song for so many years. I didn't really hear that bass line in its entirety. Now I'm analyzing it, I'm ripping it apart, and I went all over YouTube too to try to see if anyone else had done this bass line and played it outright. And there was a guy on piano that played it just the bass line, and it was very close. It was like the closest version that I found, but still I find in every version there was something that was missing. Something was a little off, or in every version there was like one chord that was just not exactly what it was. And as far as my ear can tell, this is as close as it gets. I mean, how did I hear some of this stuff? It's just like sitting there with headphones, sitting there listening to it on different speakers, trying to play it like, you know, I would repeat one moment 20,000 times to get it. So a lot of repetitious listening, and you know, I don't know if I could give any advice on how to hear music or like do this kind of thing. This is a class in college I took. It was called Oral Skills, and we had to oral skills, AURAL. You had to really listen to music. You had to notate it. You had to hear it, write it out. You know, clap backs, rhythms, and stuff. So really just the listening of music, and I've always listened to it very actively, like listen to music differently and actively. And I had to test the Beach Boys to this, because when I was younger, tearing their harmonies apart, that's what I was doing. I was like really listening to music in a different way. So if there's anything I can say for advice on how to get better at that, or if you're interested in, kind of building your ear, it would just be listen to music actively rather than passively, and spend time, and just like the easiest parts to hear are the most extreme. So listen for the bass. You can hear that, you can feel it, you can turn it up and hear that bass. Listen to the highest parts of the song. So if there's like high, I don't know if there's, maybe not in today's music, but like if there's flute or maybe some strings or something, that might sit a little higher. Voices, it's the same thing. Listen for the lowest voices, the bassy voices, listen for the highest voices. The melody is usually the thing you already know, and that's often kind of in the middle of that. Not necessarily, but the melody's obvious, typically. It's what your ear goes to. And then the harder ones are like the harmonies that are just a third above it or below it, or sometimes side by side, the notes that are sitting by a second in music, like step by step, stacked really close together, versus the space. The more space you have, the easier it kind of is. The less space you have, the more dissonance, and the harder it is to hear. But I mean, really, that's just kind of how I did it, and that's how I've always done it, is just listen really actively to music, put on headphones and get into it, and don't just, enjoy it. Go ahead and enjoy music and listen for it, your own love of it. But if you're really trying to actively listen, kind of listen for the percussion. Do I hear a high shaker? Do I hear a tambourine? Do I hear a low drum? Do I hear kick drums? Like, again, the extremes first, and then make your way in to like the middle. And it's still really hard, but there's also, for a song like this, there was lots of different sources, lots of different versions, and ways for me to listen to it differently than if it was just one version on a record or on a song. But it's still possible. So I don't know, and I don't know if you're even looking for advice, but that's how I do it. Beach Boys harmonies are not easy, and that's why I love them. I love the Beach Boys, truly, to the core of my being, because it's like this beautifully, I think it's like simply complex. It's on all these individual layers. It's fairly simple. Together, it's so complex. And then of course you have the lyrical content, which is a whole other level for this song. It's like, I even analyzed the song in my like English 10 or 11 class or something. It was just like full of so much depth. That's the beautiful thing about the Beach Boys music. It's simple, but it's beautiful, and it's so depth, and it just makes you feel something really strong. And I got a lot of comments on this cover just being like, wow, I just felt something, or I was crying, or like I just, you encapsulated the spirit, which I thank you. Like, I appreciate it. I think I feel like I do. Like, when I'm making these covers, they're coming from my heart and my soul. And like I said, this kid who was 15, who is crying, listening to Pet Sounds, just depressed, because I found the most beautiful music in the world. And, my mom thought something was wrong with me. It's changed my life. And so truly, when I do this stuff, it's just special. This music is just, it hits home for me. It is home for me. So if you feel the same way, and I'm sure a lot of you do, then those comments that you are sharing with me, they really do mean a lot. So I don't know if this helps or is interesting. If you had any more questions about this arrangement or what I did here, ask away. Go ahead and ask away. I'd love to chat about it. And if you want more of this kind of content, come join me on Patreon, and I'll post links. And please subscribe to my channel and give it a like. It really, really means a lot to me, and it helps me a lot. So much love to everyone out there. Smiley smile.